Welcome to a special interview brought to you by Pauline's Publication Africa, run by the Daughters of St. Paul. We have the honor of speaking with Chris Lowney, a renowned author, former Jesuit seminarian, and a corporate leader. His groundbreaking book, Heroic Leadership, draws on the timeless wisdom of Jesuit principles to explore leadership in today's ever-changing world. In this insightful conversation, he will share his perspective on what it means to be a leader who is not only effective but also deeply grounded in values and integrity.
Oh, hello. How are you doing? I just came to the Pauline's bookshop, and I wonder if you've been here. They have this beautiful bookshop with very many books. It's in Westlands, and if you haven't been, I invite you to come. And in fact, they even have one of my books. Let's go, I'll give you a look at it. My book, Heroic Leadership, and this is the Africa edition that the sisters just published this week, and you are invited to come and get your own copy. Well, it's my great pleasure to be at this moment to celebrate the publication by my friends and colleagues, the Paulines, of this Africa edition of Heroic Leadership. Heroic Leadership takes stories from the early history of the Jesuits. I guess most of you know that the Jesuits, or Society of Jesus, started in Europe, but very active all across the African continent. And I myself was a Jesuit seminarian for a few years, and then I understood my calling was not as a Jesuit, but in the world, and I ended up working for many years in the JP Morgan banking company. And the reason I wrote the book is that it seemed to me that there are dimensions of the spiritual tradition of the Jesuits, and frankly the spiritual tradition of many religious orders, that also are relevant not just as religious exercises, but also relevant in how all of us live our day-to-day life. Whether we're doing that as parents, in the community, working in a bank, a hospital, teaching, whatever the case may be. And as we continue, maybe I will share one or two dimensions of the book that illustrate my point that some of our great spiritual traditions also are very relevant to how we live our whole life. So, I mentioned previously that some of the spiritual traditions of the Jesuits, of our community, are relevant to people, whatever they're doing in any walk of life. And now let me give one very specific example and how I think it's very useful to people, even if they're working in big companies. So, those of us who work in organizations have become very familiar with the chaos of daily life. And often we're not focusing on the most important things. And so I like to suggest to people that every day they need to take a little, what I call a mental pit stop. So it means, let me think about my day. And maybe after lunch, I always have 3 or 4 minutes free that I could devote to this process. Or at the end of my workday, when I'm going home or before I go to bed, I can make 3 or 4 minutes. And during these short minutes, just do a very simple mental process. First, remind yourself why you're grateful as a human being. Your whole life is filled with problems, Instead of thinking about problems or to-do lists, just try to be grateful. And then second, lift your horizon a little bit. When I say lift your horizon, I mean this. We spend our whole day with our horizon just in front of our eyes. What is coming next? What call do I have to return now? What do I have to do next? Instead of thinking that way, now let me think, oh gee, let me remind myself, why am I here on earth anyway? Or why am I doing this job with my life? Or what's the most important thing I have to accomplish? Or I say I'm a Christian, what is the most important thing to me as a Christian? And then third step, always in just these few minutes, is let me go back through the last few hours and mentally revisit the meetings I was in, the people I was with, the problems I had to deal with, and try to take away some little lesson that might help me in the next few hours. A very simple practice that's drawn from the religious traditions of the Jesuits, although other religious congregations also have similar ideas, and it is from this tradition, but it's also very relevant to the daily life of people in all businesses, all walks of life, as parents, whatever we're doing.